Live from West Bloomfield, we're bringing you the news, updates, and information impacting communities around Michigan. Join our host, Tyler Kieft, as he talks with community members, business leaders, and professional experts about the stories that impact you. You're watching the Megacast on Civic Center TV.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
You're listening to your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Today's edition of the Megacast begins now. Welcome to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and find us live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., as well as live to tape throughout our local area on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. That's where you'll find links to every single one of our partnering stations, including our flagship here at Civic Center TV and our co-flagship statewide at My Michigan TV, as well as community television and radio stations picking us up live Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., as well as at other parts of your day each and every day in communities all throughout Oakland County. You can find them and their more original programming in your local communities as well, linked on our website, civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll also find all of our full shows and each individual segment on demand. So you can watch us anytime, not just Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., but whenever it is convenient for you on the evenings, over the weekends, the next week over. However you watch us, we always appreciate you joining us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. We also enjoy when you go over to our local news page and keep up to date with us each and every day as we go over the top stories here in our local area. Let's get started on our local news page this morning. Our top story comes from Eric D. Lawrence at the Detroit Free Press. A new report is showing some staggering numbers on the road safety front as the U.S. pedestrian deaths hit a 40-year high last year in 2022. A report due out today from the Governor's Highway Safety Association is projecting that over 7,500 people died while walking on or along roads in the United States last year. That is up 1% from 2021, while also not including data from the state of Oklahoma, who decided not to participate in the study. These are the highest metrics since over 7,800 pedestrians were killed on American roads back in 1981, with the study referencing federal data to compare to 2022's metrics. In Michigan, 179 pedestrian deaths occurred in 2022. That is 4 less than the year prior, but still a major concern as traffic accidents have increased in the state since the pandemic, with distracted driving being a key culprit at fault for those increased traffic accidents. Said Jonathan Adkins of the Governor's Highway Safety Association, quote, every day 20 people go for a walk and do not return home. These are people living their daily lives, commuting to and from school and work, picking up groceries, walking the dog, getting some exercise, who suddenly are killed, and violently. The saddest part is that these crashes are preventable. We know it works. Better designed infrastructure, lower speeds, addressing risky driving behaviors that pose a danger to people walking, like distracted driving. We must do these things and more to reverse this awful trend and protect people on foot. Enough is enough, and closed quote. It's not even the number of pedestrian deaths that's arguably the most shocking among the numbers we have on deaths on our roads, but rather the rate at which these deaths have increased over time, with the Detroit Free Press noting statistics showing pedestrian deaths have grown by 77% in the last 13 years in comparison to a 25% growth amongst other traffic-related deaths. So pedestrian deaths are rising at nearly 3 times the rate of other traffic-related deaths on our roads in Michigan and across the U.S. What does this point to? Not necessarily a lack of vehicle safety, as safety standards for vehicles being produced today is significantly higher than it was in decades past, but rather a lack of safety on the part of vehicle drivers themselves. As we've noted here over the past couple of weeks, we have a new set of distracted driving laws that go into effect in Michigan 1 week from Friday, placing stiffer penalties, including fines, mandated community service, and driver safety refresher courses for offenders, especially for multiple offenders of the distracted drivers laws. This is why with pedestrian deaths on our roads up 77% in comparison to even a quarter of an increase of those sort of traffic-related deaths overall that are not related to pedestrians also on the rise. 25% is significant for other traffic-related incidences, but even more significant with pedestrians going up 77% over the last 13 years. That's one of the many reasons why Michigan has passed these new distracted driving laws, better define them, require that if you're using your devices to make phone calls, to answer text messages or emails to someone, that you are doing so only by hands-free means in your car. That means if you have a car that's equipped with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto or some other automated system, that you're able to use that without ever taking your hands off of the wheel or your eyes off of the road in order to make those sort of phone calls and answer emails that you need in your car, and otherwise requiring you to pull off of the road into a parking lot, get your car out of drive, get off the main road, do what you need to do, and then get back on your merry way from there. This is particularly why this is the case. Deaths on our roads are going up all across the board, but especially pedestrian deaths, which are preventable, and of course all come down to driver safety, because we must yield as drivers out on our streets in Michigan and across the U.S. We have to yield to those that are on heels. They have the right of way. Lastly on this, the Detroit Free Press's article has a really nice note about what else can be done to help increase driver safety and change these drastically high numbers of pedestrian deaths in recent years, stating, quote, "The report referenced specific actions that states are taking to improve outcomes for pedestrians, such as injecting pedestrian safety into their driver education classes, focusing enforcement on dangerous and distracted driving, such as what Michigan is doing, and designing and building safer roadways as well," and close quote. That full article with even more details and numbers on our website today, civiccentertv.com. On our local news page, click on the thumbnail, click on the headline, or click on the link that says click here at the bottom of the article to get access to that full article from the Detroit Free Press this morning. Additionally, making headlines today from Bridge, Michigan's Riley Hodder. The end of the era is here at the Breslin Center in East Lansing, as the scoreboard at the iconic basketball arena is coming down after operating at the Bres since 2011. But its run in Spartan Nation is not necessarily over, as fans will have an opportunity to purchase pieces of the scoreboard to put on their home court. This brought social media a buzz yesterday, as the MSU Surplus Store, which is something on campus that sells a surplus of items, whether it be extra computers that may not be used in classrooms, are being phased out, that can be for purchase, laptops that students may turn in if they purchase a new laptop or if they need to sell theirs. Those are also provided there. It's exactly as it sounds. It's a surplus store. It's kind of like an Army surplus store, but kind of more so for student needs or recreational needs in the home, in the classroom, and beyond. That's what's sold at the MSU Surplus Store. So they tweeted out yesterday, yes, it's coming to the store, the scoreboard, but not just in one piece. We will be sure to provide updates when available, and closed quote. Spartan fans near and far responded, telling the Surplus Store that they were clearing their living rooms and hanging rafters in their backyards in order to hang the full Jumbotron, which in full costs about $2 million, or at least it did when it was produced 12 years ago. The MSU Surplus Store's operations coordinator, Chris Hewitt, told Bridge, Michigan, he expects to know more about what from the scoreboard will be available to the public for purchase in about 2 weeks, saying more will be known once they actually get the scoreboard removed from the Breslin Center and bring it over to his facility in order to be resold and to be scrapped for certain parts. As for how you can get a memento of Spartan history, you'll likely have to go to East Lansing to the surplus store itself and shop in person, with Bridge, Michigan noting Hewitt said pieces will be sold in store, but that the availability online isn't as concrete. Quote, "We try to get as much online as possible, but we get such a large influx every day that not everything gets up online," and closed quote. Hewitt continued on by saying, quote, "A lot of times we sell things before they go up online," and close quote. All the more reason, if you're looking to get a piece of the scoreboard that's been up at the Breslin Center since 2011, you might have to wait and go in person at the surplus store on MSU's campus. Hewitt told Bridge to stay ahead of the competition, you should follow the MSU surplus store on its social media, on Twitter, where this tweet went slightly viral yesterday across the state of Michigan. That would be at MSU_surplus. You can also find them on Facebook and on Instagram as well. Just search MSU surplus store, and you'll be able to find even more information on all that's available there and find their social media. On Facebook, it is also going to be MSU Surplus Store on Facebook. It's MSU_surplus on Twitter, and on Instagram, MSU Surplus Store is where you'll find them on social media. You can find them online, MSUsurplusstore.com for more information, or read this article by clicking through on our local news page today on civiccentertv.com. Those headlines and more making news today on our local news page. Plenty more coming up in just a little bit that's making news all around the state of Michigan, both in our news media and on social media. We'll get back to that in a little bit. But first, after this break, more people are being suggested to get screened for anxiety at their regular checkups with their primary care providers or their psychological service providers. Coming up next, we'll talk to Lori Edelson, a psychotherapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, about why this suggestion is being made and how anxiety is both diagnosed and treated for individuals across all age groups. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy, and if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand new live captions. To turn on live captions, go to civiccentertv.com and click Watch Live. In your web browser, click on the Options tab in the top right and find the Accessibilities tab. Then just switch on live captions to heighten your enjoyment of our local programming. Thank you so much for watching Civic Center TV.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine. Hello, nose. My nose knows is when somebody uses the bathroom. Mom, Polly didn't flush. Ooh, I smell cookies.
I smell an A+. How could my nose be running when it stays on my face?
Our noses know if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Let's savor these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
There are many different kinds of noses. Our noses can sniff out all kinds of things. good things and bad things. Your nose knows if those sniffles are just a cold, allergies, or COVID-19. So swab it. Test it. It's good to know.
Sure it is. Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find links to each and every one of our partnering stations, including community television and radio stations serving your local communities here in Oakland County, and statewide programming from My Michigan TV, our co-flagship, for free on their website at mymytv.com, as well as on their free apps for your smartphones and your smart TVs. All those details can be found on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find us on demand, full episodes and each segment every single day. Well, it's now being recommended by the Journal of the American Medical Association that adults 19 through 64, including those who are pregnant and postpartum, get screened for anxiety disorders using questionnaires and other screening tools at their regular checkups with their primary care providers. Why is this the case? How is anxiety typically diagnosed and then treated? All those answers coming very soon from our next guest, Kanat Edelson, a psychotherapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic, joining us for our weekly mental health segment on today's edition of the Megacast. Lori, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you on. We know that the pandemic has had a number of different mental health effects on people all across the board. One of the most common was anxiety disorders. Is that really the big culprit behind this new recommendation that adults 19 through 64 and some others also get screened for anxiety disorders when they go for their regular checkups?
My guess is that it was really the most significant factor because there's been such an increase in the diagnosis of anxiety among adults in the U.S. Certainly, it has been a significant mental health problem long before COVID, but COVID really exacerbated the situation and ramped up our awareness of how prevalent it is in the U.S. I will say, too, that they've also recommended screening for depression, not just for anxiety, but both.
Yeah, this was a recommendation that was made earlier this week on Tuesday by the U.S.
Right.
Preventative Services Task Force in the Journal of the American Medical Association for Primary Care Providers. And it's interesting because anxiety isn't a one-size-fits-all disorder. It manifests itself in so many different ways. And so with that being the case, how do anxiety disorders typically get diagnosed in patients and then ultimately lead them into some form of treatment?
Sure. So the most common symptom of an anxiety disorder is worry, but persistent, serious worry that does not abate, that is present for at least 2 weeks constantly, but often it can be present for years. And it's not just run-of-the-mill worry, which we all experience. It's more severe than that. Very often it's focused on specific things like germs or dying or safety or actually specific bodily functions. People also often have fears about vomiting or fears about choking or not being able to breathe without medical explanations for having those disorders at all. It's more or less a worry that's in their head and that persists and impacts their ability to function in other areas of their life.
And it doesn't just affect them mentally or affect them emotionally. Anxiety can have some pretty significant physiological effects as well.
Absolutely. So there are also very typically somatic symptoms, body symptoms. They can include breathing issues, heart rate issues, sweating issues, feeling extremely fatigued or unable to sleep. I mean, it can go either way. Appetite issues. Some people actually break out in hives or rashes from stress, and that's related to anxiety. And Most commonly we hear about palpitations, trembling, shaking, and profuse sweating.
Especially when anxiety becomes present in someone at a younger age. We think about our kids having gone through the COVID-19 pandemic in and out of school, in and out of the regular socialization and other sort of rites of passage that you typically go through when you are a child or a teen. How can that then provide even more significant effects over the lifetime of someone if they're experiencing anxiety from a young age and it's going untreated?
Well, we know that anxiety has some biologic and genetic piece to it. So very often if a parent or both parents or grandparents have a history of an anxiety disorder, it's not unusual that a child would be exhibiting signs of an anxiety disorder in their early years. And if we do identify and diagnose an anxiety disorder in childhood, it's very, very important because most of the time, if that goes untreated and unchecked, it will get worse as the child ages, and they will eventually come to our attention, and we'll be able to trace back symptoms of anxiety into childhood. What we know is if we can diagnose it early, we have a better chance of helping children learn how to better manage their worries, their fears before they get so profound, before they become so profound that they just feel completely controlled by them. Last year, in June, I think, of 2022, this same medical task force developed criteria to diagnose and assess anxiety symptoms in children over the age of 8. So that's been around for about a year.
We're joined on today's edition of the Megacast by Lori Kanat Edelson, a psychotherapist at the Birmingham Maple Clinic. You can find more information, get in contact with Lori and the other professionals at the Birmingham Maple Clinic on birminghammaple.com, and join them and us each and every week for our mental health segment, civiccentertv.com/Megacast for more information and all of those past segments, which do include some on this issue of anxiety. For more context, again, on Tuesday, the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force recommended in the Journal of the American Medical Association that primary care providers begin asking patients about feelings of anxiety during routine checkups and providing screening for anxiety disorders using questionnaires and other screening methods. And so, Lori, given that anxiety, A, manifests itself in so many different ways, B, affects people of all ages, how typically, as a professional in the mental health sector, do you and other professionals across medicine then screen for anxiety?
So we typically ask all kinds of questions just at an initial phone call. When someone is calling in for therapy, we ask sort of a basic array of questions to determine what it looks like this patient or this person is dealing with. And then at the first visit, at the intake visit, we administer, actually prior to their visit, questionnaires to rule in or rule out the problems of anxiety, depression, other major mood issues, substance abuse. So in the mental health field, we're doing a lot of screening right away, right up front. For medical professions, this is something newer. Some doctors, some primary care and family medicine docs have been screening for anxiety and depression for many years, long before this task force recommended it across the board. They've been sort of ahead of the curve. And now that this is being recommended on a national scale, hopefully all doctors will start screening. They have very brief questionnaires. They're not threatening. They're not difficult. They're paper and pencil questionnaires. You don't have to speak out loud in front of a group of people about symptoms, but it's pretty much a symptom screener. And when the doctors see enough evidence that there are some, enough positive responses to symptoms, then hopefully they're going to be doing some recommendation in terms of whether they want to refer to a therapist, ask more questions to rule things in or rule out, and consider treatment that would be appropriate for the patient.
A consultation with a therapist, one of the many different ways that anxiety disorders may be treated. What are some other methods that are also used either by mental health professionals, by other clinical professionals, and beyond?
So medications are also very effective in many cases for anxiety, depression, and many other mental health issues. We are also assessing whether there are enough factors to consider an evaluation with a psychiatrist, which would be an evaluation for medication, to see whether medication alone or medication in combination with some form of psychotherapy would be the best way to proceed with treatment for the patient. Very often family history has some of this too.
In terms of outcomes, how does the treatment often help these individuals either cope with their anxiety and live somewhat comfortably despite that being a factor, or at the very best, maybe even eliminate that anxiety by way of helping them develop ways to cope with that so it doesn't affect their daily life?
I don't know the statistics, the current statistics about how often, what is the percentage of effectiveness for adults or children who use therapy and or medication to alleviate symptoms. I only have evidence in my own practice and in the clinic where we have, close to 39 therapists, 4 psychiatrists. We've been in business for 50 years. We've been doing this work for a very long time, and the success rates are pretty profound. Again, I would prefer to look at National Institute of Mental Health statistics. I don't have them at hand to see what the effectiveness rate is for each therapy individually and in combination, medication and therapy.
And so to bring this all together, Lori, for parents especially, as we talked earlier about the effects that anxiety can have on kids across their childhood and then into adulthood, but also for those that are in that 19 to 64 category that the task force is really focusing on with this directive for or recommendation for primary care providers. If they're feeling these sort of symptoms that we talked about today, what are some of those first steps you would recommend that they take to get themselves properly screened and hopefully ultimately treated for their anxiety?
So I think they need to talk to the person that they're most comfortable talking with first. That may be a family physician. It may be a psychotherapist. It may be someone in the clergy. It may be someone in their family or at the workplace, to at least see if they can get some idea of a professional that they have been referred to talk about their concerns about their mental health. There are a lot of online mental health services right now. We always prefer that they get a word of mouth recommendation from someone they respect and trust, as opposed to just sort of jumping online and entering this kind of myriad of resources that the efficacy of which we can't yet prove. So that's the first thing I would recommend. I also want to comment about something that this study and these national recommendations are talking about, and that is before the age of 65. And I'm not sure why this study is limited to before the age of 65, because many, many, many adults who are 65 and older are experiencing anxiety and depression at even higher rates than adults between 19 and 64. So we don't want to exclude individuals over the age of 64. We want to make sure that they too realize that their symptoms are real and really do need screening and appropriate treatment. First of all, appropriate attention to determine whether they need treatment or not. But I wouldn't exclude our senior population, which is growing every year, because anxiety and depression is very real for them too.
You can get in contact with the professionals at the Birmingham Maple Clinic to screen for anxiety, to talk about any other mental health ailments that you may be feeling and experiencing each and every day. BirminghamMaple.com is their website for more information. Lori, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can join us and the Birmingham Maple Clinic each and every week for a weekly mental health segment, and find us on demand as well. CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast for more segments and more information. We'll take a break on the program. On the other side, there are some programs that may bring high-speed internet to more individuals right here in Oakland County, plus a special announcement yesterday afternoon from the Detroit Lions. We'll talk about both of those and more coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Like what you see? Beautiful works of art, masterworks of metal, and accomplishments of artistry will be on display near you. All kinds of artists from all walks of life come together to celebrate their skill and appreciate their work's beauty. Hot Works presents the 2023 Orchard Lake Fine Art Show. Stop by July 29th and 30th between 2 and 10 p.m. between Powers and Daly off of Orchard Lake Road.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important.
And now the same is true in the face of flu.
Influenza has the power to infect millions.
But it's easy to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
The flu vaccine is safe and effective. And with COVID-19 still around,
it's essential. Together we can face flu season head on.
Visit michigan.gov/flu.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always stay up to date with us and our partnering stations, including community television and radio outlets all throughout our local area, including in your hometown, by visiting civiccentertv.com/Megacast. I'll give you access to find where we're broadcasting live on cable television and on the radio in your community, how to find other great original programming all about your hometown as well, and stay up to date with us on demand, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Plenty more making news all throughout our local community this morning on our local news page, civiccentertv.com, including this story from Peg McNichol at the Oakland Press. High-speed internet at an affordable rate may soon be on its way to over 100,000 homes and businesses and other locations all across the state of Michigan. The Michigan High-Speed Internet Office has a 45-day public comment period open to the public to get grant applications for high-speed internet in their homes, offices, or institutions overseen by the public and ultimately deciding on whether or not to institute those. That's all through the Realizing Opportunity with Broadband Infrastructure Networks, otherwise known as ROBIN. The steering committee for ROBIN has already reviewed over 154 applications from 40 applicants, as well as 24 projects from an additional 11 applicants, with proposals from 44 of the state's 83 overall counties. That includes one AT&T project right here in Oakland County that may address over 3,000 locations throughout our local area, including in our coverage area in places such as Kego Harbor, the heart of the lakes, Commerce Township, Pontiac, Waterford, and our friends at the Media Network of Waterford, Farmington and Farmington Hills, as well as our live-to-tape partners in Lake Orion and other communities all throughout the local area. The 24 projects are valued at approximately $578 million, with the 11 applicants matching upwards of $311 million of those dollars. Grant recommendations don't necessarily mean a guarantee of grants being ultimately granted. They're just recommendations. Your comments, your affirmations, your objections, they'll all play a role in the final decision from the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office on these projects. Anyone in the public is welcome to comment or submit an objection or an affirmation of any of the proposed plans and explore them in full. More information can be found in the link at the bottom of this article if you click through and read the full article from the Oakland Press this morning on our local news page. Click through, read it in full, find links to read up on each of the projects that are currently being proposed, and submit your public comment if you wish to have your voice heard on this matter. CivicCenterTV.com on our local news page. That will be the third story down on this Thursday morning where you'll find that article. You'll also be able to find it later on in the week as well if you're tuning in to us on demand later on after our live shows. Additionally, making news today on our local news page from Claire Hendrickson at the Detroit Free Press. The Michigan House of Representatives passed legislation this week that would ban child marriage in the Great Lakes state. That's right. That was not already in place. In fact, the act of child marriage is still pretty commonly legal in the U.S., including in 42 states, 20 of which have no minimum age to get married at all. Under the current laws in Michigan, Michiganders can get married as young as 16 years old with written consent from a parent or guardian, and probate judges can even permit marriage for those younger than 16. Said State Representative Kara Hope, a Democrat, aptly from Hope, who has worked on getting new laws on marriage age minimums passed for the last 5 years, said, quote, "It's hard to believe that this practice is still legal in Michigan in the year 2023. Victims of child marriage have less stability in their financial situations, more unwanted pregnancies, and worse health outcomes," and closed quote. House Bills 4293 and 4302 passed with minimal objection recently, only with a few in the Republican caucus voting against the passage, with most of both caucuses in the House of Representatives voting affirmatively to pass these laws. So far in the 21st century, 5,400 people under the age of 18 have been married in the state of Michigan, with rates of this occurrence declining pretty steadily from the year 2000 until 2021, that with the most recent data available. It should be noted that this is not an issue just domestically in the United States. In fact, the United Nations has set a goal to end child marriage worldwide by the year 2030. That full article from our friends at the Detroit Free Press can be found today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. Finally, making news today, not on our local news page, but rather on social media and likely at the water cooler at your office today. The Lions made a reveal yesterday online, and this time it's not just for their new pop vendor at Ford Field, but finally for the ever-awaited alternate helmets that the Putty Cats will wear on select games this coming season, including their appearance on Monday Night Football. Some of the team stars, such as Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aiden Hutchinson, as well as head coach Motor City Dan Campbell, got their first look at the new helmet recently as well. Let's take a look at this reveal from these players and to the head coach of the Lions that shows the new helmet on display from the Detroit Lions YouTube page. Let's take a look.
Many people are feeling overwhelmed and struggling with mental wellness these days. So be kind to your mind. Give yourself permission to breathe. Share your feelings. You are not alone. Have hope. Talk to a Stay Well counselor for free confidential help 24/7 through the COVID-19 hotline.
Ronnie started doing prescription pills at the age of 15, and by 19, he died. If your child is struggling with drug use, try not to be too proud to reach out for help. Don't be worried about what the neighbor will think or your family. Just get your child the help they need. Sometimes it's the hard road to take, but the hard road is nothing compared to living with the fact that your child is no longer with you.
There's hope and help at drugfree.org.
Apologies, some technical issues there that led to us having to take a brief break there. We're back on the Megacast Civic Center TV and all throughout our local area on civiccentertv.com/megacast. Calvin at Master Control, when we do have that video working properly, just give me a signal in my ear. In the meantime, we'll talk about that helmet. It's a beautiful new helmet, matte blue trim on it, as well as a classic Lions logo. Now, it's going to be worn just a couple of times this year, including the Lions' appearance on Monday Night Football, as well as their game against the Las Vegas Raiders. I still keep thinking Oakland or thinking LA when I think of the Raiders. It's still kind of got to get used to having that team be in Las Vegas in the NFL, but that's one of the matchups in which the Lions will be wearing these new helmets. They're really cool, and they're going to go along with the Lions, what's known as their Color Rush uniforms. It's those gray uniforms with the white numbers on them. They play only really select games each year in those uniforms. Sometimes it's been Thanksgiving. Sometimes it's been other special matchups, usually against divisional rivals like the Chicago Bears or the Green Bay Packers. But you'll see those blue helmets here in just a moment. We'll get an image up for you when we have that video ready. They are really cool, and got a lot of praise already from the community who loves seeing what those helmets are looking like, and is excited to see them on the field with the Lions this year. I hear that we have the video. Calvin, if we can go ahead and roll that.
Watch Civic Center TV with our brand.
All right, let's see it. Woo! Is that blue? This is nice. The matte blue too with the throwback logo on top. Oh my gosh.
Very cool. Does this come in caps?
Ooh, with the light too? Okay. The throwback is sick though. Like for me, like when I look at, thinking about way back with Barry and all them, the throwback is, I even have a jacket with that same logo, so I can't wait to rock out in it. Just let me know what games.
That is, that's pretty damn cool right there.
First blue helmet ever? Come on. No better year than this year, baby. Let's do it.
Wow. This thing is so clean. So sleek.
That's good stuff.
This is sweet, man. The finish, I mean, it looks better in person. I promise. You guys got to see it.
Yeah, just a really cool new helmet for the Detroit Lions. The helmet overall, my evaluation, I love it. I think that helmet is nasty in the best way possible. It's going to look so great on our Detroit Lions this season, and gives them a little bit of a new look while taking a look back to a bit of the past. I agree with Amon-Ra St. Brown. That matte blue finish looks so good on that. The classic logo, I mean, I don't have words for it. All I can really say about my love for that logo, especially on that helmet, was one way to describe it. Scrumptious. It's so scrumptious, I can barely move. But I have to, because we have to move forward. So, it's going back to something more along the lines of when the Lions had the best success that they've had in their franchise history. That logo goes way back into the 50s. And I also am a firm believer it's time to get rid of the big lion logo, the Barry Sanders era logo that's really, unfortunately, been a symbol of mediocrity for so many years for this Lions franchise. This logo, it's on this blue helmet, this alternate helmet that will a couple times this season. It's got an automotive feel to it. It's got the connection to Detroit, of course, the Ford family owning the Detroit Lions. And unfortunately, the only really bad thing about this is the jerseys they're wearing them with, the gray color rush uniforms. Now, not everyone likes the color rush uniforms, those gray Lions uniforms. I don't mind them. I'm a little bit of a gray uniform apologist. I kind of like them overall, but with this blue helmet, I don't know. I would rather they go with a similar matte blue kind of finish on a new jersey, on an alternate jersey, or even better yet, wear this helmet and bring back some variation of those old black alternates with blue numbers from the John Kitna and Roy Williams days of the Detroit Lions. Those should definitely come back in some capacity, but the gray jerseys with the blue helmets, it seems like a miss to me. I mean, even put them with the Lions home jerseys, they're which are already blue themselves. Market it as a blue out at Ford Field. It's right there. It's sitting there all juicy and ready to be marketed, and you go with the gray uniforms. The only real knock I can give to the Detroit Lions on what is otherwise a beautiful alternative helmet that they'll be wearing a couple times this season. Hopefully this means more rebranding for the team. Clearly we're in a new era with the Detroit Lions. It seems like a new page is trying to be turned, and it's really close to being turned over, and maybe this team is going to be going in a different direction. If you're the Lions and you can turn that page, turn it. That includes the rebranding of this team to be a little bit more sleek, a little more automotive, a little more Detroit. And I think that they're already starting to trend in that direction. So some very good news. If you haven't had a chance to take a look, or you're just listening to us on the radio this morning, you have a chance later on, civiccentertv.com/megacast, or search on YouTube for the Detroit Lions alternate helmet reveal, and you'll be able to see the helmet yourself and the reactions from players such as Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aiden Hutchinson, as well as head coach Dan Campbell. All of our headlines are making news today on our local news page on civiccentertv.com. You can also check back with us every day for more about what's going on all around town on our local news page, on social media, and more. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we'll talk to another great local organization throughout our community that's helping to help our community adjust disparities in maternal and prenatal care right here in Metro Detroit. Stay tuned. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
1 in 4 Michigan homes has high levels of radon, a naturally occurring radioactive gas known to cause lung cancer. It doesn't matter where you live or what type of home you have. You won't even know it's there unless you test. So don't wait. Testing is cheap and easy. And if there's a problem, it's simple to fix. Visit michigan.gov/radon to learn more.
We took action. Will you?
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
I'm Steve Eiserman of the Detroit Red Wings, and I think every child in Michigan deserves a safe, healthy, and happy childhood. Can we build a state where Children Trust Michigan isn't just a name, but something our kids believe? Please support Children Trust Michigan as the voice for children and families by visiting the website to learn more.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live daily TV, radio, and streaming show talking about all things Oakland County and the state of Michigan. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. You can always find us on civiccentertv.com/Megacast and find all of our partnering stations, including those on community television and radio in your local community, and statewide partners, including My Michigan TV, as well as all of our full episodes and each individual segment on demand. All of that is on our website on civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Unfortunately, when it comes to prenatal care or maternal care or even to infant care, there are disparities still, even to this day, between those among the various races in our community. But organizations throughout southeastern Michigan and across the state are working to reduce those disparities and provide the care that is necessary for parents and for children alike as they come into this world. Joining us now on the Megacast is Princella Graham, Program Coordinator of Hear Us, Our Voices, Our Births, Detroit Mothers Speak. Princella, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, good morning, Tyler. It's good to be on the program. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, glad to have you on to talk about this issue because as much as we prioritize prenatal care, we prioritize helping mothers birth children and of course parents to raise their kids, there are unfortunately still disparities in how that manifests in our community. So how does your organization and your initiative help to sort of bridge those gaps and provide equitable care for parents and children?
You're right when you say that there are disparities. And Tyler, this is not just for the greater Detroit area, but this is national. There's a crisis, a birthing crisis, actually. African-American women are dying 3 to 4 times that of white women in their perinatal journey. And as a result, we're losing families. And so it's becoming really critical for us to address it. So SimQuick, the organization that I'm working with, the Southeast Michigan Perinatal Quality Improvement Coalition, actually covering Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County, is addressing this program and has been addressing it for quite some time. Their goal and their mission is to reduce the maternal and infant health disparities across the three-county area and find solutions that will actually help change some of the systemic changes that would improve birth outcomes. So SimQuick was able to get a grant from Merck for Mothers, their Safer Childbirth Cities project, and they are working through the Michigan Public Health Institute to identify a specific project, which is the Project Detroit Voices for Life. That's what this Hear Us project is a part of. And the Project Detroit Voices for Life has four major components. And of those four major components, Our Births, Our Voices, Hear Us, Detroit Mothers Speak is a media campaign to raise awareness.
And so what are some of the key issues that are going to be covered in this campaign so that the public has a better idea of how these disparities in perinatal and infant care really affect parents and kids all across our local area?
Well, we're actually working on from a four-pronged perspective. You know, we're looking at it not only in terms of raising the awareness about the problem, but we've got four major organizations that have already been in birthing work throughout the Detroit area. The Detroit Health Department, their maternal mortality review team has expanded to become the maternal mortality vitality review team, looking at the data of women who have passed because of health issues and pulling up that data for women who had similar health issues who survived. So they're able to make 22 recommendations so far, looking at 22 cases of women so that they can make recommendations to government agencies, to the community, to health systems, and to insurers so that they can look for system changes that will improve outcomes. At the same time, Henry Ford Health System has been working on unconscious bias training, and they have trained over 500 physicians in unconscious bias training with their Ruby program so that they can also approach this whole system change through the physicians as well as through just the system changes through the government and through health systems. And the third component of the program of the Project Detroit Voices for Life is the doula training. And as you may be aware, the state has already approved reimbursement, Medicaid reimbursement for doulas so that more moms can have access to doulas. And studies have shown that having doula assistance and support will allow moms to have better birthing outcomes. And then the fourth part of the component, which ties into this Our Births, Our Voices, Hear Us campaign, was three particular partners, the Detroit Health Department Sisters Friends program, Focus Hope, and the Black Mothers Breastfeeding Association. And they form kind of our 100 Voices storytelling portion of the project. And they recruited 100 women, and that was their goal, to recruit 100 women to tell their birth stories. And these women had to have given birth within the last 2 years and went through a formal storyteller training that was 2 days long, and we held 21 of those training sessions over 6 months. And it focused on the components of telling a story, the methods of telling a story, and techniques for telling a story, with the idea that women sharing their stories in the community with women, with healthcare providers, will empower women to begin to understand that they have a voice and that they can be heard and that they can expect to be heard. We ended up training over 110 women, and 94 of those women told their story.
Joining us on the program today is Princella Graham, the program coordinator of Hear Us, Our Voices, Our Births, Detroit Mothers Speak. That is part of a project through a local organization serving both Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb counties, the Southeast Michigan Perinatal Quality Improvement Coalition, or SEMQUIC. You can find more information on the organization and their efforts and find more on this particular project by visiting SEMPQIC.org, SEMPQIC.org, or SEMQUIC.org for more information. Princella, with these videos and other information in this sort of media campaign, where can people get involved? Where can I see these videos, share these videos to get this information out to the public so that there's greater awareness for this and hopefully greater advocacy for bridging some of these gaps?
They can go to the SEMQUIC website to get access to the videos. And we're still in the process of even developing more videos. I mean, it's really important for the community to hear, because it's not only educating the community, but again, like I said, it's empowering the voices of women to speak up and to expect and respect respectful perinatal care. Some of the themes that we're hearing from these women over and over again is we're not being heard. We don't feel respected. We don't feel that the doctors are really seeing us as people. And so it makes us feel unsafe through our perinatal process. And we're also hearing problems about postpartum depression and the issues with isolation and homelessness and the lack of support. So we want to make these videos available to the community. And like I said, you can go to the SEMQUIC website to get access to these videos, to use them within your community, within your churches. Hopefully the physician community as well, the provider community as well, is using these videos.
Priscilla, we've got about 45 seconds left with you today. If people want to get involved with this campaign and help SEMQUIC get this information out to the public, how can they also get involved?
Again, reaching out on that SEMQUIC website, there would be a way for them to contact SEMQUIC directly and get involved with what we're doing. We actually have a conference coming up next week, June 27th at Focus Hope, and they're more than welcome to join us at that conference to learn more.
More information can be found on SEMPQIC.org. SEMQUIC.org is the website. Princella, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you so much, Tyler, for having us. We appreciate it.
Glad to have you on. Glad to have you with us. It's an important issue to talk about. It affects people not just in the Tri-County area, but all throughout Michigan and around the U.S. These disparities need to be recognized. They need to be talked about, and changes do need to be happening in order to help mothers, parents, and especially the children in our local communities. More information, again, ways to get involved, SEMPQIC.org. And you can also see that website in our graphics on this segment on demand, civiccentertv.com/megacast. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Megacast. Big thank you to each of our guests, and thank you for joining us online, on TV, and on the radio all throughout our community, live to tape, and on demand on civiccentertv.com. For our entire crew, Jared Clark at the studio of My Michigan TV, and Calvin Brown, our director at Master Control at Civic Center TV, I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll see you very soon.